Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for My Hero Academia, chapter 187. And honestly, this was actually a very simple chapter, but a lot of the time what made it work for me is that it was in the simple moments of it that really made it impactful. For instance, immediately the first 4.5 pages are like chock to the brim with good stuff to talk about. Like the first being that we get introduced to more of the Todoroki family. This time it's from Shoto's older brother, not older brother. I think it was Natsuo. Yeah, Natsuo. And I like how this introduction does dive more into what his siblings think of their father, even after all that's happened, and how they can't necessarily forgive him, or at the very least bury the hatchet as easy as the Prush little brother did. Like it just pretty much because of what just it's one of those situations where just because one family member ends up forgiving or just burying the hatchet pretty much between a loved one, between someone they hate and love, doesn't mean that the rest of the family is going to. It's basically there's always going to be a little bit of uneasiness, but definitely between family for sure. And even though, like I said, even though Shoto is the first one to like bury the hatchet and forgive Endeavor, doesn't mean the rest of the family can really do so easily. And but at the end of the day, the reason why that was, but if you think about it, at the end of the day, the reason why that was even possible to begin with is that it all comes down to experience. Because Shoto chose to spend an extended period of time with Endeavor in order to understand him more, and he basically his outlook on his father inevitably ended up changing for the better, but because Shoto's siblings have basically had bad experiences with Endeavor, but never chose to try and at least understand him. That has kind of led to pretty much that kind of wreck for sure. Um, and and one thing and overall, like I said, this first chunk of pages really achieved a lot of characterization and development through pretty much the simplest of means, and it isn't just for pretty much isn't just for Shoto's siblings, but it's also for Endeavor himself as well. Like we see we see small touches in this chapter showing that Endeavor is definitely going through a change just from the simple things his that Shoto's mom, his wife, and Endeavor's wife have accounted from the fact that Endeavor has actually visited his wife in the past and currently as well, and he's even remembered her favorite flower. Like it's like we've basically always known Endeavor as basically that asshole who really only got together with his wife in order to create the perfect hero in order to beat All Might. But here we're actually seeing ever since All Might's retirement and the fact that he lost his power, Endeavor has definitely been searching for purpose in his life. He's been trying to find a new path in order to go down, and one of those paths does in fact seem to be trying to make amends with his family, and which is great. And from here, I can honestly see that after this arc for sure, I can definitely see Endeavor's character starting to come full circle. I'm not gonna say he's gonna actually come full circle yet, but I can see that he's starting to make steps forward in order to change and be a different person, and hopefully and maybe and even start acting like both the father and hero his kids want him to be. So yeah, Endeavor is going to go through a huge change down the road for sure. Now whether or not it's all going to come full circle by the end of this arc. We'll have to see, but yeah, Endeavor, like, he's going through some major changes, and I'm loving it so far. And honestly, from there, the rest of the chapter was pretty simple. It was just Endeavor and Hawks fighting IN, but we do get glimpses of how both of them work together. In fact, if you look at the chapter, it's very much a situation where they pretty much compensate. They pretty much compensate for both of their shortcomings. Endeavor is not the best at avoiding collateral damage, even when he's trying, but he pretty much does have an insane amount of power. Meanwhile, Hawks' quirk almost seems tailor-made to save people. Whereas Hawks' quirk seems tailor-made to save people, but from basically what we see in this chapter, it doesn't necessarily. I think he's even accounted to this. His quirk is tailor-made to save people, but it doesn't necessarily have the it doesn't necessarily have it doesn't have the power it needs in order to fight villains in pretty much a long standing fight for sure. And High End seems to be, and I'd say that High End is Hawk's worst enemy, because with regeneration powers, yeah, it's a long drawn out battle is almost guaranteed. But yeah, it's like it's one of those weird things where, in a way, like, as much as they annoy, even though they annoy each other greatly, as we've seen, it's weird to say that in a way that they're pretty much almost a perfect team, because of the fact that their quirks compensate for one another. Endeavor's quirk has the power that Hawks doesn't, but Hawks' power has the ability to save people. Whereas in Endeavor, he pretty much can. He can in fact save people, but his quirk itself isn't really made to save people. The only way he can save people is just through the basic principle of saving people. He can't use his quirk to save anyone. So yeah, and like I said, in a weird way, they pretty much are the perfect team, just from how their quirks can help each other out. And we also learn the official name of Hawk's quirk in this chapter, which is Mighty Wings, and how he can control what his wings do with his mind. Which they never mentioned the weakness of his quirk. But if I had to take a hard guess, I'd say a couple of weaknesses it has is that it doesn't have the power needed to take out in order to take on villains in an extended fight. But I think the other two weaknesses we can also gather from this is that it's pretty much, considering that his quirk, that he needs to have a focused mind in order to use his quirk. I think I'd pretty much say that there is a certain number of people he can really only save. Like, I know he ended up saving like 76 people, but I imagine if it goes over the 100 mark, then that's probably where things get complicated for him. Like, I'm sure he can probably save 1,000 people, but yeah, I'm sure there is a certain limit as to how many people he can actually save with his quirk. And with that being said, I also imagine that there's a limit to how many wings he can use at any one time, especially with that panel we see of his wingspan having decreased significantly. I think we can say that saving just those 76 people, I think that 76 is pretty much actually his limit. Is actually the limit of how many people he can actually save, for sure. Now, the chapter also gave us a bit of a lesson on the Nomu, and how it confirms a pattern we've seen of all black Nomus having regeneration powers. But in a way, you could say that High End is almost sort of the perfected version, as he has all the strengths of the Nomus, but not the major weakness, being that he's actually intelligent. Like, pretty much, high end, he has pretty much all the powers a Nomu has, but unlike all his predecessors, he's actually intelligent or intelligent enough in order to think of ways in order to fight a villain equally, basically. And I think in a way, at least for me personally, this actually, like, high end as a character actually gives me like a bit of a actually gives me a bit of a glimpse into what specifically All for One was hoping to achieve with the Nomus to begin with. But was hoping to achieve, but he never really could end up getting any success out of it. I think what All for One was hoping for with the Nomus was an army of intelligent bioengineered, basically bioengineered, pretty much super soldiers. Like that's basically what I'm getting from this is that he was hoping to. Is that All for One was hoping to create an army of bioengineered super soldiers with the Nomus, and if that was in fact Shig Araki talking to High End a couple chapters back, then we can say that he has actually achieved what his master could not. And yeah, if that is the case, I really want to know how this was made possible. How was High End made into the first intelligent bioengineered Nomu or super soldier? Like, how was this made possible? I really want to know. But yeah, guys, that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. That Enemy, signing off. Later, guys.